Welcome to What's the Score, a series solely dedicated to the support of Central Florida's small business and entrepreneurs. Donated as a community service by AM 660 The Answer and Salem Communications. Now, here's Christopher Hart and Rich Jaeckle.
Welcome to What's the Score, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Once again, folks, this is the show designed to help you come up with that winning combination for your business or project. And, folks, also to help you avoid the errors and pitfalls that are out there. Well, as I said, welcome to the show. My name is Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries Radio Show, and I'm joined today once again by Rich Jaeckle of Score. Rich.
How are you today, Christopher?
Excellent. And yourself?
Oh, just fine, just fine.
You're looking awful chipper today.
Oh, yeah. I put on both my socks this morning.
By yourself?
Yeah.
We also have Paul McNally of Score, who is also a business broker of ABC Business Brokers. And, Paul, thanks for being with us today.
Great. It's great to be here. Did you get those socks on the right feet?
They're two different ones, so that's how I could remember.
Keep them color-coded there, right?
Yeah.
And we also have a guest in the studio with us today, and his name is Gary Mulini. And Gary has the food truck at Wekiva Island called Without a Paddle Cafe. And he's going to tell us all about that here in just a moment, how he got started and some of the pitfalls he had to avoid, literally and figuratively. Welcome to the show today, Gary.
Thank you very much. And I forgot to put my socks on.
Okay. Well, we'll keep the fan blowing your way in here then.
Between the four of us, maybe we can get a matching pair.
That's right. Once again, folks, this is a show to help you in your business and your enterprises, because Score is a great organization. It's designed to provide mentorship to people who are starting out in business or who are already in business and perhaps want to up their game a little bit. So once again, Rich, tell them how they can find out more about Score and take advantage of it.
Well, there's a couple ways to do that. Number one is obviously the phone, and that the Score phone number is 407-420-4844. There's counselors, phone counselors on duty Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 o'clock.
And they are located at the Entrepreneur Center, the International Entrepreneur Center, which is located in the Fashion Square Mall, right between J.C. Penney's and Sears. And you can walk in there as well.
That's right. You can walk in and get an appointment, usually, or if a counselor is available, you can see the counselor, but you may have to wait. So it would behoove you to call in first and make an appointment.
And some of you folks out there have been listening to the show and know that Score provides seminars for you. Some of it, I've gotten a couple of questions. Do they hold the seminars at the Entrepreneur Center?
Yes, they do. It's across the hall, actually, are two large training rooms. And Score office is located on one side of the hallway, and the Entrepreneur Center is located on the other. Entrepreneur Center is basically our landlord. In other words, they serve about 13 or 14 service community providers in that area, and we're all under one roof. So if somebody needs help with something, you can call the Entrepreneur Center, and they will guide you to whichever organization would be best suited for you.
And that's important to know, because we stress Score here, but there is actually a lot more to offer at the Entrepreneur Center.
That's right. That's right.
And we want to get you over there, folks, especially if you're just starting out in the business. And Score puts on these seminars on a regular basis. And, Paul, we've actually got a one coming up.
We do, and it's a good way to get started if you've got an idea or think you want to go into business. We've got a seminar coming up on Saturday, September 6th, and it's an introduction to all of our seminars that'll be talk about your business idea and how Score can help, and a little bit about what needs to get done. So it's Saturday, September 6th, 9:30 in the morning, and it'll run 3 hours till 12:30. And then we're doing the same seminar again on Tuesday, September 9th from 6 to 9. And we also have a short seminar that we're doing in conjunction with the UCF Alumni Association. That's going to be Wednesday evening, September 3rd. And we've got about 130 people signed up, Rich. Right. We're putting that on at their UCF Grand Ballroom. And you can call Leah Lambert from the Alumni Association if you'd like to come to that introduction. But these are all free seminars.
Do you have Leah Lambert's phone number there?
I do not,
Okay,
but we'll get that for later in the show.
Okay. And these are all free seminars?
They're all free seminars. You just have to show up. You don't even need a reservation for the ones that we put on at the Entrepreneur Center.
Okay, so they can just show up at the door.
They can just show up for that seminar. All of our other seminars, you do need to pre-register, and you go online at orlandoscore.org.
To find out when and what they are.
Well, yeah,
seminars.
But there's also a charge. There's only one free seminar.
Right.
But the rest of them, there are charges for.
And it's a minimal charge, though, really.
It's only $30. So
yeah,
if you don't have $30 to start a business, you sure as heck don't need to be in business.
And you can take one from scratch down there. In other words, you go in there without a plan, without a budget, and the guys at Score will help you set all that up.
Right. Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Can you write a business plan for me?
Can I write a business plan for you? No, but we can help lead you down the path so that you can write a business plan.
And how would you do that?
Well, we do run a seminar that talks about business plans and walks you through all of the steps on the business plans. And then after that, we recommend you sit down with a counselor, and they'll help review the plan that you've written and help you tweak it so that it looks good for whoever you're using it for financing or landlord or for the many places that a business plan ends up.
Right, and you actually write a skeleton of the plan in this seminar, right?
We do, and there is templates online at our website, orlandoscore.org. You can get a template, and you can use that to start your business plan.
Let me correct that website. It's scoreorlando.org.
Scoreorlando.org.
Right.
All right. Let's go. All right. Okay. Scoreorlando.org. And you can call also to make an appointment down there at 407-420-4844. And let me ask you, Gary, and how did you get involved with these guys at Score?
It was an unfortunate accident.
Yeah, but don't tell him that part.
Actually, both of these guys are friends of mine.
I see.
And I've been in business for myself pretty much my whole life. And we just hang out together, and we all enjoy. We go to baseball spring training every year.
That's a great pastime.
He gets his personal counseling on a regular basis at Without a Paddle Cafe.
Right, I have to go there at least once a week and counsel him.
I see. Yes, yes.
We thought he'd bring some food here today, but that didn't happen. So
I guess the invitation is to come up there after the show.
There you go.
Now you sort of walked into this as a lucky break because these fellows are involved in this organization and they are friends of yours, so they can be there on a regular basis to offer you this advice. But in fact, that's the sort of relationship you set up with many of your clients, isn't it, Rich?
Many of them. We probably have about 25 to 30% recurring clients. So people come back even after they get going. Once they get started and they make it over the hump, which is usually about a year to 18 months, they continue to see us. I'm ready to expand. I want to hire people. I'm having trouble with my marketing. These are all reasons for you to come to Score. And just let me make a point here. There's certain things Score counselors can do, and there's certain things that Score counselors cannot do.
Okay.
And Paul's going to talk about a couple of those things. Paul?
Well, some of the things that we can do is we can listen to all of your plans and go through a questioning process to help you clarify all of your goals. That's some of the things that we do when we're counseling. What we cannot do is we cannot tell you what kind of business you should try to establish. We're waiting for you to bring your ideas to us. We're not there to try to put you into business.
So if somebody has got a job or something, say, I want to get into a business of my own, Score is not the place to go until you come up with some idea of what you want to do.
Correct. You need some basis. You need an idea, and then we'll take that idea and we'll try to work together on it to see if it's going to be a profitable business. And that's the real key, and that's where the counseling comes into, where we try to make you successful, but if it's not going to be success and we see that, we're going to be
Be quite honest about it.
We're going to be very honest about
Can
it.
you
Which is
make
what
a
people
decision for your clients?
Well, we make no decisions. We'll make some suggestions. We will counsel them and help them do their homework and find the facts. But we do not. We don't make decisions for them. We don't give them money. SCORE doesn't have drawfuls of money to give out, and we cannot do the homework for them. That's something that they need to do themselves.
No, SCORE is a mentorship program where these guys are going to help you evaluate, first of all, your idea, and then help you put that idea into motion if it has legs. But you have to do the work. You have to come up with the idea. You are the one who's going to have to do the business plan. You're the one who's going to have to attend the seminars. No one can make a success out of you for you. You have to do that for yourself. But these fellas are there to help you along the way. In particular, help you avoid the loose rocks, the pitfalls, the errors that are common along the way that people commonly make simply because they don't have the experience, which is what they offer.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hand-holding service. So as you progress with your business and go through the registration and then, how do I market? How do I get the word out? You come back. I've had some clients that have been with me for 5 years.
And as we said, it's also to set up a friendship so that you can confide in these people and they can be honest with you about their advice to you.
Most of them don't like me.
It's the same as the fellow counselors there.
That's right. But first and foremost, it's there to provide you advice. As Paul said, they can't make decisions for you, but they can provide you advice. And that is what you really need. And it really is up to you to make the decisions. And in the end, you're going to be happy with your success when you have made the decisions far more than if somebody's doing that for you.
And you raised a great point. They have to do the work. You can't come in and just say, can you write a business plan for me? It's not going to work. You've got to be a part of your business plan.
And that gives them ownership in it, too. When they're doing it, they start seeing some of the pitfalls that they may fall into, and that helps bring a little reality to the front.
And believe me, as a businessman myself, I know that having people around me who have business experience in things that I don't have or more experience than I have, believe me, it's a very reassuring thing to have because just about every business is going to have those times when there's doubt in your mind or you're not quite sure which direction perhaps you should go. So it's great to have an organization like SCORE there. And especially if you're starting out, go ahead and get the relationship with SCORE going so that they'll be there as sort of your fallback. All right, so we're going to have to fall into this break, but when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Rich?
Yeah, I was going to ask Gary, what is a paisa?
Okay, welcome back to What's the Score? And once again, thanks for being with us today, folks. And we are always looking for questions or suggestions about the show and certainly comments as well. And we'd love to hear from you. You can make those at score@nationalec.org. Now, that's different from the other website. Score@nationalec.org is where you give us questions, suggestions, and comments about the show. And if you'd like to find out more about SCORE, see some of those templates, find out, about S Corporation, and LLCs and all that stuff you can find at scoreorlando.org. That's scoreorlando.org. And if you want to go down there, make an appointment, just breeze through the Entrepreneurial Center. The International Entrepreneurial Center is located in the Fashion Square Mall, and their phone number there is 407-420-4844. I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to hear about what was it that you asked Gary about?
Yeah, Gary needs to tell us what is a paisa?
And this is Gary Mulini of Without a Paddle Cafe from Wekiva Island. What is a paisa?
Well, back in 1969, my father moved our family here to Orlando. And up in Buffalo, New York, my father was the king of pizza. He had 7 or 8 pizzerias up there. Well, we opened up our first pizza place in Apopka in 1969. And one of our first customers walked in, looked at the menu, and looked at me and asked me what paisa was. I went back in the kitchen and told my father he made a huge mistake.
Maybe Apopka wasn't the best choice.
There's plenty of pizza around town today.
Is that what got you into the food business, the restaurant business?
Yes.
your family heritage?
Yes, I was born into the business.
Yeah, but we were talking through the break. Now, this is our Keys to Success portion of the show. And one of the things that we try to focus on in the Keys to Success is some of the things you shouldn't do. And we were talking during the break, it's common that a lot of people think anybody can be a business person.
Right.
And as the fellows were saying, they come into a little bit of money. They think, I'll go out and start a business and I'll make me $1 million. But some people probably shouldn't be in business, should they?
No, and I think SCORE can help them with that because they can give you the reality of going into business for yourself because it's a lifestyle. You live your business.
Rich.
Chris, we can get into more of this after the main break, but how about if we talk about some of the upcoming shows first, and then just say, here's some people that can relate to you, to the businesses, et cetera. And then Gary's got a ton of stories besides the Paisa, so he can better address our entrepreneurs out there in the second half.
Okay, Paul.
Well, we've got next week, we've got Dr. Pete McIntyre, who is an inventor, and he invented a device for the handicapped to work on computers with no mouse. So he's a client. Wasn't he a past client of yours, wasn't he, Rich?
Yeah, he's also an acquaintance from a panel we did for the University of Phoenix.
That's great. Well, he'll be here next week, and then following that, the following week, we have Jeanette Scott, who is a fashion blogger, and she is actually a girlfriend of Joshua Johnson that we had on last week. So she's got a big blog on fashion designing called Jay's Everyday Fashion. So she'll be here 2 weeks out, and then following that, we have Jean Newell, who calls herself the Boomerpreneur. And she went into business late in life in her early 60s, and she's going to be here to tell a story on that. And she's done some work with SCORE over the years. She comes from the West Coast, the East Coast, but she has been to the Melbourne SCORE, and she actually has done some work with the National Entrepreneur Center, and she has done some speaking there. That's
excellent.
What's coming up.
Sounds like a great lineup of guests. And folks, once again, we hope you'll tune in for all of those shows, because the more you can hear these different stories and the different paths to success, the more you can get a real feel for this sort of thing. Once again, we'd love to hear your suggestions as well, and your questions about any topics that we can be talking about on the show here. One of the first of the keys to success is, should you actually be in business at all? And as Gary was saying, business is a lifestyle. It's not 9 to 5, and when you go home, you check out and you leave everything at work, and it's really a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week endeavor, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think in order to be successful, you have to sleep, eat it, breathe it all the time.
You've got to have a passion.
It's not for everybody. You have to be self-driven.
The thing, too, is people don't realize they're wearing a lot of different hats. You could be, if you're in the restaurant business, you might be cooking in the daytime, a bookkeeper at night, and after you close up, you might be the janitor cleaning up the bathrooms. And you have to understand that, especially in the beginning when money is a little bit tight and you're trying to get things off the ground, you're doing everything that it takes to be successful.
And as your business grows, and you've got 30, 40, 50 employees, and you're lucky enough for your business to thrive, you become a banker, a psychiatrist, a babysitter.
Security officer.
I mean, you wear many hats. You have to work with all your employees in many ways.
The one thing that runs constant with all these different jobs you're describing is that you're always doing customer service and public relations, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's all about making the customer happy.
Making them happy and making it fun and easy for them to spend their money.
without them feeling the pain of it at the same time.
Yeah, I've gone home from the Wekiva Springs very painful several times.
How many people, in terms of percentages, do you think come into SCORE and don't really understand what they are getting into, more or less?
I would say the starting type businesses, I would say probably 40% of them have no idea what they're getting into. And maybe 20% will continue, but 20% are going to say, whoa, this is too much work. I thought I was going to start my business so I didn't have to work.
Right.
Would you agree, Paul?
I agree, and I think a lot of them think that as soon as they start the business, the money's just going to be rolling in.
There you go.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't work that way.
Absolutely not. And I think 40% is conservative. I think it's even more than that. But and some of them continue on even with us trying to talk them out of going into business. Some of them do continue on, and they do go into business and pay the price sometimes in the end.
Chris, you're a startup. Yep. How much time, ramp-up time, did it take you before you got going?
Ramp-up time for me with my carpentry business, it really was, there wasn't much at all. It was, as people found out that I could do that sort of work, they would come to me to do it. And because I was doing it part-time initially, there wasn't the pressure of having to make a budget. There wasn't the pressure of having to, make the nut every week. But before I knew it, I was doing it full-time, and the work was there. As I said, I benefited from the housing boom that started in the 90s and continued until 2008. But then after that, the jobs got much more scarce. But because I had built up a reputation and had a customer base, when you own a home, there's always something that has to be done, it seems. Right. So those people came to me and kept me alive, and they kept my business going.
Okay, but the primary thing was you had built your reputation before you started your business.
Well, that's correct. Yeah,
people knew you, word of mouth got out there, but most of these people that want to start businesses, some of them don't even know how to cook, and they go into a restaurant, and they come in and nobody knows the restaurant.
Well, part of the ramp-up process for me, you might say, was my training to be a carpenter, because what I did was I worked a couple of summers with my brother and his partner who had Main Design, and they built boathouses and decks and docks around town here. And the reason they couldn't stay in business, it took sometimes 2-3 years to get a permit, because of environmental and all the lengthy process of red tape. You would have to have public hearing after public hearing after public hearing, and it just, you can't run a business that way. But they did for a couple of years, and by working with those fellas and carrying around 16-foot long pieces of freshly pressure-treated lumber, you learn a few things. And so I started, then building decks and fences for friends. And that's how it
evolved.
It evolved. You can, folks, you can develop a skill working for someone else that you can then take out and start a business. I saw a little bit about how difficult it was to run a business because my brother and his friend were partners, and I could see what they had to go through. A lot of people are insulated from that where they work. They don't really see what it takes to run that business, and therefore they think anybody can do it.
But Chris, when things went bad in 2008, obviously you had built up some good business sense to be able to survive that when things got bad, because that's when the going gets tough, that's when the tough get going, and survival is important at that point. A lot of people didn't make it.
Well, I'm still hanging on. In other words, the business hasn't recovered nearly to what it was, but it is enough to make a decent living on, and the jobs are steady. It seemed like they were getting a little bigger there for a while. Now it seems to have tapered off a little bit, but there's a little bit of fluctuation, that sort of thing anyway.
Now you've got the big bucks coming in from radio, so it doesn't all matter.
No, actually, that's the big bucks going out for radio. But it's a whole different experience with radio. And that's taught me, that I had business skills from the carpentry business and running that type of business that didn't necessarily translate so well into the radio business. So it's been a relearning process. And but I see we're coming up on the break here in just a minute. But the one thing that I didn't have going for me is I didn't know SCORE was out there.
That's right.
I just found out about you guys this spring through Mike McBath.
Yes.
And had I known about you guys, I'm sure it would have saved me some steps along the way. And it could have made me help more successful in my carpentry business, and certainly saved me some headaches in terms of the radio business. Mm-hmm. And so, I highly suggest, folks, if you are out there, talk to these guys at SCORE. They have an immense knowledge that you would be privy to.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, talking about permits and all this legal government stuff that you have to go through, you must have ran into a lot of things at Wekiva that we can talk about the second half, right?
Sure, absolutely.
If we have enough time in the second half. If it's anything like the deck and dock business, the regulations, oh my Lord. All right, so once again, folks, stick around. Gary Mulini's going to tell us a little bit more about how his business thrives now and how he got it there. And, of course, the guys from SCORE are going to be here to chip in with their experience along the way. We'd love to hear from you at score@nationalec.org. And please stay with us, and we'll be back after this short break. Okay, welcome back to What's the Score, the show designed to help you come up with that winning combination for your business or enterprise. I am Christopher Hart, and in the studio with me today is Rich Jaeckle and Paul McNally of SCORE. And we have also with us today Gary Mulini. Gary Mulini is in the restaurant business. He came up from the family in the restaurant business, and he now has a food truck at Wekiva Island, which is located at the end of Hunt Club Boulevard. You just take 436 to Hunt Club Boulevard and take it right till it dead ends into Wekiva Island. And the name of his food truck is Without a Paddle Cafe. But now you didn't start off out there. As I said, you started off in your family business. You came down here in 1969 and set up a Pizza restaurant up here in Apopka, and started selling pies of pies. And how did you go from working at your dad's pizza restaurant to owning your food truck now at Wekiva Island?
Well, I worked for my dad for probably 20-some years, and then he sold all his restaurants and retired, and pretty much said, well, I taught you how to run a business. Good luck, kid. And in which he did. And I went to go work at a couple of restaurants. Then I landed up investing $5,000 with two other people, and we opened up our first restaurant on our own. And
where was that?
That was Otter's Riverside Restaurant down in the Port of Sanford. And that became an instant success. And we went in for short money, and I sold my interest after about 2 years.
Now, let me hold you right there. What do you mean short money?
We invested $5,000 apiece, a total of $15,000. And I sold my share a couple of years later, and I took that money and I decided to start basically flipping restaurants. And what I would do is buy restaurants that were struggling or closing, build up the business, put a concept in it, and then as soon as the place started getting busy, I would put it up for sale.
I got an idea. Why don't we make that into a reality show? Seems like I've seen that deja vu all over again.
Well, actually, my father used to do that pretty much his whole life. And after I bought that first restaurant and sold it, I just kind of fell into that pattern, didn't I, Paul?
Yep.
I mean, that's how I met Paul.
I was going to just say, Paul, does that happen a lot?
It does. A lot of people don't realize that businesses where you make the big money is when you sell them. It's not when you're running them. You can make good money while you're running them, but if you've got a successful business and you sell it at the high, then that's when you can cash in.
All companies, in my opinion, start, go up, peak, and then go down. IBM, Xerox, Kodak, then the list goes on.
It sounds like a subject for another show called Exit Strategies. Right?
Exactly.
Well, you had brick and mortar places that you were flipping.
Yes.
How long would you normally keep one, and how long would it take you to turn it around on average, would you say?
The shortest was 2 years. The longest was 7.
So obviously, this isn't somebody can do to get rich quick. No scheme. Obviously.
No, it's a lot of hard work because, as you guys know, the first 18 months in your business is critical, and pretty much the first 18 months of any one of the restaurants that I started, I worked 7 days a week, double shifts, to make sure everything got going.
And so you flipped businesses. And then how did you flip yourself into a food truck?
Well, after the last two restaurants that I had were, I had them both at the same time, full service. I had 45 employees in each one. So I had 90 employees. And
that was Straub Seafood, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the two. I bought the two Straub Seafoods from Rob Straub. And I built them up, sold them. But I was going to keep one, and then I just got tired of all the employees. It was too many employees, 50 employees. I sold one, kept the second one. And to be honest with you, after doing it my whole life, I'd pretty much had enough. And I was fortunate that I did well in all of them. So I went into another career, and I missed cooking. So I thought I would try a food trailer. And I built a custom food trailer, 8 feet wide by 20 feet long. And I was fortunate enough to find a good home for it because I'm too old to be traveling around like all these food trucks do.
Sure.
And I found a great home at Wekiva Island, and we do a great business there. And there's a lot of advantages in a food truck over a brick and mortar.
Now, you open every day there?
Open 7 days a week.
And what are your times?
We open at 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Thursday, and we're open till 7 at night. On Friday and Saturdays, we're open till 9.
Okay. You brought up a good point here that you could tell our audience, probably just my wife, in effect, but maybe, and that is employee problems.
Yes.
What could you tell our audience out there about handling those things?
Well, when you have, say, 40 employees, there are things that are just going to happen. There's theft. Therefore, you have security cameras. You have different issues with different employees. I mean, it's not like all the employees are terrible. I mean, you can't sour yourself on because your help is what makes your business thrive. Okay, but it is a challenge to handle 40, 50 employees, and there's a lot of turnover. So there's always constant retraining.
All the different personalities.
There's all these different personalities, and when you got hired in one of my restaurants, you had to go through 4 days of training, and that costs money. And then sometimes they get through 2 days of training and never come back.
Now, what about screening? How did you make sure that you got the right candidates?
Well, in the restaurant, you give people the mirror test. You put you're always desperate for help. So you put a mirror underneath their nose, and if it fogs up, you hire them.
Wow, that's pretty desperate.
It used to be that way in the construction business around here.
No, but
no
really,
longer.
But really, the mortgage company's in trouble a few years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can breathe, you can have a mortgage.
You have to go with their references, and you go through an interview process. You try to catch on to what their personality's like, and you take your chances. And that's a good thing about training them for 4 days, because if they can't make it through 4 days of training, they probably wasn't for them anyway.
You interviewed every one of your employees, I assume.
In some of my restaurants, I did not. That was the general manager's job.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Is there any one thing that would immediately say, this guy is my man or this gal is my gal?
Longevity at jobs is nice. If somebody, didn't hop from job to job every 2 months or have big gaps where there was nothing, from September to September of the following year, they didn't work anywhere, and you have to find out. But I mean, you sit down, you ask some questions, and you have some guidelines set up, and you get a feel for the person, and you let them get a feel of you and what your business is like, because they have to like your business too. It's not all about you liking them and making sure they're going to fit in. They have to like what you do, because I would start a lot of my interviews by telling them about me and telling them about my restaurant and how I felt about my restaurant, so they knew I was on board.
Gary, how about recruiting? Can you go out and recruit from the competition
Absolutely.
And try to get people?
Absolutely. The best general manager I ever had in my life, who was still to this day my soulmate, was a bartender at a place called Foster's Hollywood Grill. I watched her work. I immediately asked her if she wanted to become a manager. She interviewed the next day. I hired her as a manager. 6 months later, she was my general manager. And as a matter of fact, she told me that she was mad at me because she had stayed up all night and done a resume, and I never looked at it. And I told her that her resume was in her eyes. You could tell she was on the ball.
So in any business, you've got to be a good general reader of people.
Yes. Go with your gut instinct.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
How many people come in to SCORE that aren't aware that this is all involved in running a business? Because as Gary said, you got to be part psychologist, part, everything.
Yeah, most of the people that come in with that dazed look, you tell them about the people and personnel problems, and they'll say, no, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm not going to hire anybody. I'm going to bake the cupcakes. I'm going to, deliver them. And the first question we say was, how many cupcakes can you bake?
Right.
And can you make any money? Because your money is limited by how many you can bake.
Right. And another good rule of thumb is to tell people, you don't always work in your business. You have to work on your business. So if your head's underneath the hood all day, you may not be able to figure out why your car can't start. You have to step back a little bit once in a while and take a look at the big picture.
Yep, that's excellent advice because, running a business day to day, you get caught up in the day-to-day things, and before you know it, you are losing that big picture.
Yes, and that's a challenge.
Absolutely. And how do you keep focused out there at Wekiva Island? I've had a bunch of the guys around here wanting to know if they can get jobs with you up there.
Well, I'll tell you, I've worked in a lot of kitchens in my life, and by far this one has the best view.
No doubt about it.
It's a beautiful river.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And the wildlife is pretty nice there,
yes.
too. Mm-hmm. All right, folks, we're going to come back here in just a couple minutes and continue the conversation with Gary Mulini and talk a little bit more about running and what's involved in actually getting the permits and everything to run a food truck. And if you don't have a location like Wekiva Island, how maybe can you find one for yourself? But first, let me just mention that, folks, one reason why we're doing this is because people listen to radio. And that's why SCORE is using the great folks here, their offer at Salem Communications to provide for you this hour of programming to help you. This is a public service program. And we're doing this because it's an effective way to reach out to the community. And if you would like to do that for your business, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can have a show of your own, just like this. That's right. You can come in on a Saturday or a Sunday and have an hour show, a half-hour show. And it's real easy to do. The folks here at Salem will take care of everything for you, from setting up your intro and your promos to helping you get through the show. And if you'd like to have a show of your own, call Salem Communications at 407-618-1769. Or, of course, you can advertise on radio. And, of course, that's a great way for a business. Once you get up and rolling a little bit and you really want to expand your presence in the community, advertise on radio. You can focus in on that demographic group that you want to reach out to the most, whether it be sports, entertainment, music entertainment. Of course, talk radio is the most listened to news source for everyone in the United States. You got that? Still, talk radio. That's a shocking statistic. 407-618-1769 is the number. Okay, welcome back to What's the Score? Once again, folks, this is the show designed to help you come up with that winning combination for your business. And don't forget, you can go to the International Entrepreneur Center Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 and just walk in or call over there and see the folks at SCORE. And that's at 407-420-4844. And that center is in the Fashion Square Mall. And once again, we'd love to hear your questions and suggestions about the show. And you can go to score@nationalec.org to give those suggestions to us. And if you would like to find out more about SCORE and see all of the things that they have to offer and their full list of seminars, go to scoreorlando.org. That's scoreorlando.org. Once again, we're talking with Gary Mulini, who is a successful restaurateur here in Central Florida ever since 1969 when his family moved into the area. He has had his own brick and mortar restaurants. He now has a food truck restaurant. And Rich had an excellent question about the permitting, because, a lot of businesses, especially restaurants, have to have a lot of permitting and code things of that sort that they have to comply with. How difficult was all that?
It's really not that difficult. You have to be persistent, but you go to sunbiz.org. And I wish at the time I knew about SCORE, because it would have saved me a lot of...
Yeah. Join the club.
But you go to sunbiz.org and you just basically start clicking away at what kind of business you want. They have hot dog carts, food trucks, whatever you want. All the information's there. All the forms you need to fill out are there. You fill them all out. Like, for instance, for a food truck, they want a diagram of what this is part of the paperwork. You submit your diagram of what the inside of the food truck looks like. Where is the oven? Where is the refrigerator? Where does it have a suppression system for the hood for fire? So you submit that, and they either pass it or ask you to do something. But usually it's a pretty easy process. It's not that hard, but you have to stay with it.
Gary, a lot of people, when the government's involved, they get afraid to ask questions. How friendly and user-friendly is the Department of Professional and Business Regulation?
I'd say as long as you're straightforward, I would never be afraid to ask the questions, because that lands up getting you in trouble. Yep. Sometimes you think you need to make a shortcut that you really don't need to make, and then you make the shortcut, you land up in trouble, and your project gets backed up by 6 months.
Yep, and I've gotten some good feedback that they're good to work with, and they want to help you get through the whole process as easily as you can. It
can get very frustrating at times, but you have to stay with it. And you're always going to run across somebody that seems like they're not being very helpful, but it's just part of the game. You just have to keep going.
Gary, can you buy a food truck that's fully equipped and everything?
Yes.
It's already passed inspection?
Yes.
And what is the price range of those things?
I'm not really sure. Paul might know more about the price range on existing food. I had mine custom built, and I designed it.
Yeah, I've seen them used trucks, and again, you could be talking about one that's a 1981 versus a 2014. But I've seen prices range anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 all the way up to over $100,000. Mm-hmm. I saw a pizza truck that was actually built on a original trolley that I was brokering at one point. It was $139,000 they were asking for it.
Wow. But you can build your own.
Yes, I built my own. Now, one great point for anybody that wants to go into the mobile food business, okay, you can have a truck, or you can do what I did and do a trailer. Because if you have a truck and the truck breaks down, your restaurant is closed because you can't get to where you need to go. If you have a trailer and your truck breaks down, you can rent a truck, use your friend's truck or whatever, and hook it up and go where you need to go. So
great point.
Do you need a commissary if you are running a food truck or a food trailer?
Yes, and that is part of the requirements. It goes in that paperwork with sunbiz.org. You have to tell them where your commissary is, where you prepare your food and whatnot. They are also inspected by the health department as well as your food truck.
Okay, now commissary, you mean?
You can get, like in my instance, I have a caterer who has a catering facility. He is my commissary of note. I pay him so I can use that commissary whenever I need to, and it's my commissary of record.
So that's a place to
even a hot dog stand has to have a commissary. And there's companies in Orlando that specialize in being your commissary.
Really?
Yes.
It's changed quite a bit. When you were here in 1969, do you by any chance remember the Tom's Pizza?
We were talking about that today. 10 cents a slice.
Yeah. Tom is still around, by the way.
Mm-hmm. The Vogel brothers. Weigel brothers, right.
The three brothers are still around. Tom's the oldest. He's about 81 now. I'm sorry for saying that, Tom. But Tom's a dear friend of mine. And about 20 years ago, he had the idea of coming up with a pizza truck because he actually started out in Johnstown, Pennsylvania with the ice cream trucks that would go around. You remember when we were kids, the ice cream truck would come around your neighborhood? They're probably maybe
still out there.
I was going to say they're probably out there still somewhere. I haven't seen it in my neighborhood.
In my days, it was an ice cream wagon pulled by a horse.
Yeah, well, you're out there waiting on the beer wagon to come around.
And they were 2 cents an ice cream probably back then. Huh?
But about 20 years ago, he came up with this idea, and he actually put together a truck. But there was nobody around that did anything. First of all, when he went to the permitting processes, it was like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. No, nobody's ever done anything like that. There's ice cream, but there wasn't, a pizza wagon.
We don't have a form for it, so you can't open your business.
And he did basically what it was. And he had to come up with an oven that was basically an oven that you would use in a restaurant, of brick and everything. He had to take brick and mortar and make it work in this pizza van. And, he ended up selling it. Mm-hmm. But it was a nightmare. He had a great idea, but as many entrepreneurs, maybe a little bit ahead of his time because there was nobody out there that could do this in any way. Mm-hmm. And he was even installing the pizza oven in the vehicle because there wasn't a mechanic or whatever around to do it. But nowadays, that's all changed. It's all changed. These things are, I don't want to say commonplace, but they are not unusual anymore. And, Paul, I'll ask you, is it a great way and I know we've talked about this on the show before, but now we have Gary here. What was your question, Rich?
Low and I disagree on this thing because I think it's a great idea that
as a startup,
the mobile, yes, versus the brick and mortar.
It's a low investment to get in, but most people don't find it to be a stepping stone I think more people are going from the brick and mortar back into the mobile to help with their marketing.
But it didn't work for them.
Some of them didn't, and some did.
Yeah, I think that there's more people that go into the mobile dreaming of going into the brick and mortar.
That's what I think too.
Okay, and because every chef serving that gourmet pork belly sandwich out of that truck someday wants to own a restaurant on Park Avenue and be in, you know what I mean? But then you got guys like me who did it the other way around.
But
trust
you already
me,
had
this
experience.
is the way to go. Yeah.
You had experience.
Yeah.
And you wanted to have no employees, and look at you, probably got 6 or 8 employees there now.
Yeah, well, we got busy. But it's I think the mobile food business is now, when I say mobile now, when you have to move from spot to spot,
that's what I'm talking about.
That is not easy, and that is a young man's game. Like I say, I'm blessed with being in one spot, and we do very well. And
let me just, I don't want to ask you the arrangement, but how did you just approach them and say, hey, I've got a food truck?
Yes.
Okay.
I used to go there every day, have a beer, go fishing, and everybody kept going up to the bar and going, you got any food? You got any food?
And all they would have crackers, maybe some crackers or peanuts or something.
So I just started building this trailer. And I didn't really know where it was going to go. But I always had hopes that it would go there, and it did. And they're very happy to have us, and we're very happy to be there.
And by the way, folks, they've been making some fabulous renovations at Wekiva Island. If you've never been there or if you haven't been there recently, you need to go up there and just see what they've done.
It's unbelievable.
Fantastic. It absolutely is. Tell us real quick, what's your menu?
I have over 35 items on the menu.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. We change our menu
now,
pretty much.
Do you prepare all the food in the truck, or do you pre-prepare anything?
We prepare everything in the truck.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have, it's 20 feet long. It's custom built. It's got state-of-the-art equipment. And then I also bought a 14-foot trailer and turned it into a walk-in cooler. So I have lots of storage. I basically have a restaurant with the cooler and everything on wheels. Everything's on wheels.
And both of them are eco-friendly, if I understand correctly.
Yes, it's all high-efficiency equipment. I mean, my whole truck with the air conditioner on and everything pulls about 25 amps total.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got...
you should set these up for people to live in.
Yeah, we've got on-demand hot water heater. So we're not keeping water hot all the time. Right. And the island right now just put in about $50,000 worth of solar panels. And the goal is within the next year for the island to be 80% supplying its own electricity.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
They have something going on this weekend, don't they?
Yeah, the new wine room and craft beer bar is opening up in the main building. Yes.
Okay. Well, if you can't catch that this weekend, if you're too late when you hear it on the show, don't forget you can check out Wekiva Island at the end of Hunt Club Boulevard. And just take 436 if you're coming from Orlando, I-4 to 436, go west about 4 miles till you hit Hunt Club Boulevard, turn right. You can only turn right. And just take it till it dead ends. And then when you see Gary, say, hey, Gary, I heard you on the radio,
there
man. You need to have your own radio show.
We have a website, withoutapaddlecafe.com. That has all of our menus on it as well.
Great.
Right.
One last question.
Sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
it'll have to be the last one, though.
Okay. Mobile or brick and mortar?
Mobile.
Thank you.
All right. I guess they're trying to outvote you here, Paul. I'm going to abstain. All right. Real quick, who's our guest next week? And once again, the date and time on that seminar.
Next week, we have got Dr. Pete McIntyre.
And he's invented something pretty fantastic, Rich.
Yeah. I met him at the University of Phoenix board meeting, and he invented this this device, an electronic device for the handicapped that allows them to communicate with a computer without a mouse.
That'll be fantastic to hear about that, Paul.
And Saturday, September 6th, we've got a seminar on you, your business idea, and how SCORE can help, 9:30 in the morning. And you can see all of our upcoming seminars at scoreorlando.org.
And once again, if you would like to send us questions or comments about the show, you can send those via score@nationalec.org, score@nationalec.org. And if you're interested in perhaps setting up a radio show of your own or finding out how to advertise on the radio, call them at Salem Communications right here at 407-618-1769. They'd love to help you out. 407-618-1769. It is a great way to raise your profile in the community and your prestige while you're at it. Once again, you've been listening to What's the Score, the show designed to help you come up with that winning combination for your business. And Gary Mulini, you've come up with that winning combination over and over again, and we appreciate you imparting your knowledge here today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was fun.
All right, and Paul and Rich, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.